Man finds the love of his life by doing this. We're going to dive into this conversation today. It seems like most of my videos are often focused on how to avoid the wrong person. Let me repeat that, how to avoid the wrong person. In fact, it feels like I'm almost pessimistic about love. Well, I just want to share with everybody, I'm not. In fact, I know many success stories of people that I personally know in my life that are happily in love. See, the truth is I love love. I'm a hopeful romantic. And while the odds might seem like they're not in favor for a successful relationship, I'm always reminded of something a friend of mine once said to me. He said, love is a risk, and yet it's still the best game in town. I want to repeat that. Love is a risk, but it's still the best game in town. So today I want to share with you a success story, and it's actually a blog I wrote that I put on my Facebook page today that I want to share with you. And then we're going to unpack it, and I'll give you these really interesting prayer, mantra, affirmation, mission statement that you might want to adopt for yourself so you can attract the kind of life partner that puts a smile on your face. So let me read to you what I wrote this morning on my Facebook page. It said, after 2 years of swiping, ghosters, glam shots, and just seeing what's out there, profiles, Mark was ready to delete the apps forever. At 58 years old, divorced and emotionally exhausted, he convinced himself that real love was a thing of the past, or at least reserved for those lucky few and those Instagram influencers. But before giving up, he did one last thing. He got intentional. Instead of trying to impress or perform, he rewrote his profile to reflect who he was: honest, imperfect, but open-hearted. He stopped chasing chemistry and started paying attention to consistency, kindness, and shared values. That's when he met Lena. No fireworks at first, just steady, sweet, and smart. But over coffee, hikes, and Sunday dinners, something rare happened. They grew into each other. Today, they've blended families, share a home filled with laughter, and plan slow Sundays like their sacred rituals. Mark says Mark says the best part isn't finding the one, it's finding someone who makes being yourself feel like more than enough. So if you're tired, jaded, or tempted to give up on love, remember it only takes one aligned connection to change everything forever. Love isn't gone, it's just waiting for you to stop pretending and start showing up as the real you. Is love a matter of luck, or is it intentional? And I wrote a follow-up. And I just want you to know, I personally know the man in the story, though I changed the names and details for privacy. Watching his journey reminded me that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with a warm smile, patience, and showing up authentically. He almost gave up, but choosing to lead with his heart changed everything. If you're feeling discouraged, let this be proof that real connection is possible. Stay open, stay honest, and don't settle for anything less than reciprocal. I hope this inspired you, sharing the story of a friend of mine who is in a very happy relationship. They moved in together within the past year. I've been invited to their home. You can tell that there's genuine love and care. And while they're still in that giddy phase of only knowing each other for 2 years, I do believe that they have the makings for a successful relationship. They're both in midlife. They're both divorced. They both have children. But they showed up differently in this relationship. They showed up consciously. They showed up intentionally. They showed up in understanding of who they are. They know their wounds. They've worked on themselves. They've done personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and therapy to be in a place to show up as a more emotional grown-up. Let me repeat. They're showing up as more of an emotional grown-up. What is an emotional grown-up? Emotional grown-up is a person that can take personal responsibility for their choices. They don't react when there's disagreements. They work together as a team when there's a problem, rather than going to their one side of the corner and get defensive. And most important, they are committed to commitment. They are committed to commitment. See, this is one of the challenges we do have in this environment of revolving door dating that's occurred, or what I call telemarketing dating. Doesn't dating feel like telemarketing? In other words, you're just on there swiping, swiping, swiping. It's just one person after another, without really building a connection, without really determining if do we share the same values with each other? Are our lifestyles blendable with one another? And more importantly, does this person have the emotional maturity to be in a significant relationship? So in a moment, I'm going to share with you the 5 C's to a successful relationship. You may, or at least this is the world according to Jonathan. And I invite you to write this down. I invite you to allow yourself to metabolize this, sit with this, and recognize, oh, let me rewind a second, metabolize this. The reason why I said that is when you metabolize this, your intuition starts doing the work for you. Your intuition. I do believe we have a powerful intuition, and we could look at a dating profile and genuinely know, so long as our ego isn't doing the talking, to determine who that person might be. I do believe that we have that power within us, but I think it requires kind of rebooting, rewiring our system, because again, we've been so indoctrinated. Even my friend, his name isn't Mark, but in the story, he recognized that chemistry wasn't the indicator of relationship success. So, as I said, I'm going to talk about the 5 C's, and then I'm going to share with you a prayer, a mantra, a vision state, a mission statement, an incantation you can use to attract what I believe might be a wonderful life partner in your life. So the 5 C's are this. I'm going to recite them all, and then we're going to unpack each one of them. First is chemistry. That's kind of obvious. Next is communication. Next is compatibility. Next is character. And lastly, commitment. Okay. Now, I'm sure you've heard the 3 C's before: chemistry, communication, and compatibility. But it occurred to me that something was missing in that. And the reason why character is in there, because I think respect is hugely important. The reason why commitment's in there is because I think trust is hugely important. So when we think of chemistry, we oftentimes think of physical attraction for another person. That's what we typically use to determine. But you know, there's different types of chemistry. And let me ask you, have you ever met a man or woman who you had a great emotional connection, but they weren't your type? Well, if you met someone like that, you actually had emotional chemistry. Maybe you met someone that was brilliant. They were smart. There was something about their mind that was so attractive. That's called intellectual chemistry. The new terminology for this is called sapiosexual. In fact, so you might meet someone who's not your type, but you are so enamored with their intelligence that it becomes its own aphrodisiac. Sapiosexual. Next is something I call creative chemistry. This is for those artists, musicians, photographers, chefs, comedians. You know, my friend Allison Armstrong calls it the Adam Sandler effect. And we'll use Adam Sandler as an example here. He's maybe not the most handsome guy on the planet, but boy, his personality, his comedic talents. Robin Williams is a perfect example of this. May not be Brad Pitt, but there's just something about their creativity that is so magnetizing. And that is what I call creative chemistry. Then there's a chemistry for those people who are firemen, policemen, you know, Navy SEALs. You know, there's just something about their protective nature that can be so attractive. And as I said earlier, they may not be your type, but there's something about that protective nature. Even men who are financially, high net worth have that protective nature because they can take care of you, maybe not in the physical sense, but in the financial sense. And that certainly is attractive. Then there's another type of chemistry I believe exists. It's spiritual chemistry. I don't even know how to describe it. I just do believe it exists. So why are we talking about this? Well, ladies or men, you might meet someone who isn't your type. In fact, that you may not be, okay, look at, so long as they don't have a beer gut the size of Texas and missing all their front teeth, and no disrespect for a person like that, but if you feel like you would be repulsed sleeping with a person, okay, I'm not asking you to push your boundaries here, but I'm saying if you're vibing on an emotional level, an intellectual level, a creative level, maybe that protective level, give that person a chance. At least give them 3 dates, because you might be surprised. If you're vibing at that kind of level, they may not be your type, but that might be someone worth investing in. So first is chemistry. Second is communication. We all hear it, communication. But I want you to think of communication like this. I want you to think of communication of like what it feels like to talk to a good friend or your best friend. What does that feel like to talk to a good friend or your best friend? That's what communicate. I want you to think about the feeling, the emotion associated. What is that emotion? You can be yourself. You can say almost anything. Hey, it's 11:11 right now. You can say almost anything and you feel safe. That's what I just want you to not, I'm not talking about active listening or conflict resolution skills when I'm talking about communication. I'm talking about what it feels like to talk to a good friend or a best friend. That's what chemistry should feel like. Next is compatibility. Now, when you think of compatibility for those of us in midlife, for those of us in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, you have to think about it in terms of blending lives with one another. Folks, at midlife, this is probably the biggest hang up for most couples, is that they are probably not well suited to join each other's life. They might on a temporary basis. This is why casual relationships are the prevailing narrative these days. But that capacity to blend lives with one another is very problematic. And particularly as we age, we get very rooted in our life. And sadly, women are oftentimes expected to be the ones who change their life. They have to pretzel to the man's life. And I'm not a big proponent of that. But then again, you have to be careful if two people are very rigid in their lifestyles, because being able to compromise on some level is simply a trade-off. But again, it should be fairly commensurate types of trade-off for each other. But ultimately, if you're not able to blend lives, I mean, it's going to be problematic. Character. Character. I want you to think of character as shared values, because we don't tend to respect people that don't share our values. It doesn't mean we disrespect them, but we have a greater level of respect when a person shares our value on generosity, maybe charity, maybe it's humanity, maybe it's health, whatever those core values for yourself. I want you to think of character in the area of the value of kindness, the value of generosity. In fact, do they have a generous nature? Do they have a scarcity type of mentality? Do they have a victim consciousness or a victor consciousness? This all plays a part in a person's character. And ultimately, character plays a big role in the success of a relationship. That's why they call the 5 C's. And the 5th C is commitment. Now, when you think of commitment, I want you to think of trust. I want you to think of building trust together. And I want you to think of trust like roots to a tree. Folks, what would happen to a tree in a hurricane wind if it didn't have roots? It would blow away. Relationships also need to build roots with, to make it survive, to make it strong, to build trust with one another. It has to grow. What are some of the most important roots? I think of emotional connection. That's the 5 love languages, being able to connect with each other on an emotional level. If you haven't read the book, The 5 Love Languages, I highly recommend checking it out by Gary Chapman. In fact, you may even want to Google now the 7 love languages, because they've added to this. Okay. Also, next is economic agreement. Do you realize that most divorces cite money as the problem in the relationship? If you haven't read the book 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman, Check out chapter 2 or chapter 4. The cost of love, work, and money. One of the most important conversations you'll ever have in a relationship centers around how you value money. Money is how you treat money. Next is social activities, hobbies, and mutual interests. Remember we talked about friendship earlier? How do two people become friends? They do shit together. Social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends. Lastly, intimacy. Half of divorces cite money. The other half cite a lack of intimacy. And I'm here to say it's not just physical intimacy, it's emotional intimacy as well. So we've just kind of outlined these 5 C's. Now, how are you going to use this to your advantage? Well, I invite you to create a vision for the type of relationship you want. This is something I work with my clients. I'm going to share this with you. And I'm inviting you to create your own mission statement and something like, and create a mission statement, that vision, what it feels like to be in this kind of relationship using the 5 C's as your framework, as your container for what this relationship should feel like. So again, this is a mantra, a vision, a mission statement, a prayer, an incantation. Snap your fingers and have it magically appear. So it goes something like this, and it goes like this. My intention is to recite my dating vows shortly after meeting my life partner. Many of you know my dating vows. By the way, there's a link below to get a copy of my dating vows. Before the penis ever goes inside the vagina, ladies and gentlemen, you should have my dating vows. This establishes the agreements you make early on in the dating process. So it goes something like this. It's going to take me 4 minutes to read. Our mutual physical attraction for one another feels stimulating and passionate, including verbally expressing this attraction towards one another and a regular practice of flirting with one another through words of affirmation, adoration, physical touch, and quality time, which feels sensational. The communication between us feels liberating, and more importantly, it feels respectful and balanced, carrying on for hours at a time. We experience a deep sense of intimacy while choosing authenticity and transparency as our daily practice, which feels safe. We feel mutual comfort and ease when we're together, which feels grounding. As our time together grows, the energetic connection feels so aligned, and we both have a mutual sense of true chemistry, which feels calming, whole, and liberating. We consciously choose to co-create our relationship for the expansion in a committed relationship that feels safe. We share a mutual sense of humor, and more importantly, we have a passion for speaking from our hearts to one another, which feels like 2 best friends talking with each other, and the banter can go on for hours and hours at a time, which feels liberating. Our ability to express ourselves, even when there are differences, is rooted in mutual respect and, more importantly, grace, which feels comforting. We love talking and hearing about our passions to one another at a balanced rate, and we listen to each other with respect and presence that fills each other up, and we are truly feel cherished when we speak with each other. We seem to like the same things in life, and at the same time, we appreciate learning new things from one another, which feels grounding. We are aligned on our core values and complement one another on how our individual strengths help each other grow, which feels safe. We respect each other's strengths, and we appreciate our differences with respect, which feels calming. Our lifestyles, for the most part, are similar and blend with ease that feels aligned. We share mutual desire to live together, and we both agree that the institution of marriage, whether legal or spiritual, is based on a conscious coupling and a co-created experience of building a life together as partners, feels right and committed. We share a similar interest in hobbies and are aligned in our social activities that bring us joy. And at the same time, we're open to exploring new things with ease and grace, which feels inviting. We mutually respect our character and are devoted to building trust, including making our partner a priority in our lives that feels safe. We are aligned on our core values and passions in life: health, finance, charity, community, family, fun, pleasure, travel, prosperity, personal growth, and spirituality. We are committed to building the deep roots of trust, including mutually investing in each other. From a financial perspective, we believe in partnership when it comes to supporting one another, which feels grounding. We are both givers to one another and receivers, and we share an agreeable personality that feels fulfilling. We honor our boundaries, openly expressing to each other when we notice them, and communicate in a kind, compassionate way or safe place. We accept our differences from a place of love, and if there's ever friction between us, we speak up, process it, and heal it quickly, which feels safe and comforting. Our sexual relationship is a daily and spontaneous practice with mutual passion and a high degree of mutual satisfaction. It is euphoric at a spiritual level for both of us, which feels sensational and pleasurable. We show up as sovereign beings, healing from our childhood and our adult wounds from a place of individual self-love. Through our relationship and commitment to one another, we hold hands, healing those additional places of expansion that feel supportive. We do our best to show up as our best selves, choosing to explore the depths of our spiritual awakening through the gateway of long-term commitment and desiring a safe, all-in relationship. And lastly, when we say I love you to each other, we mean I'm here. You matter. We're important. I've got your back. I'm not going anywhere, and I only want you. Tell me, how did that feel? How did that feel? I know many of you are saying that feels impossible, but I will tell you, if couples who are deeply in love with each other were able to express what it was, I guarantee you they'd be nodding their heads saying, yes, I have this. Yes, I have this. Yes, I have this. And even the couple I was sharing about earlier in this conversation. And I know many of you think this feels impossible, but I will tell you, happy couples do feel this way. They just don't know how to express it. Some of you are going, oh my God, Jonathan, that was so lengthy. If your life can be summed up in 4 minutes, you don't have much of a life. This is just 4 minutes to express bountiful feelings of joy, happiness, commitment to one another. And so my invitation for all of you is to adopt, to embrace this, to embody this, to metabolize this into your life. Because when you're operating from this space, you have a greater chance for success. Because let's face it, and I know I'm a harbinger at this problem. I talk about it's the Hunger Games out there. I just want to put the odds in your favor. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, hey, there's links below to schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. You can join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. You can follow me on social media. You can get my dating vows I just talked about, all listed below. All right, those who know my live format know it's time for Q&A. If you have a question, there's a little chat box somewhere down there. Write the word question, then post the question there after. Or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. There's a little $ in the chat box. All the monies from the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. That's a picture of him right there in his little Woody outfit with his brother, Buzz Lightyear, Colin. He's my son who passed away almost 7 years ago. And in his honor, we donate to causes like the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. And our goal today is $50, so I'd appreciate some love. All right, I noticed some comments already. Oh, and if you want to join the love seat, I just post a link. Let's have a conversation. Someone be brave enough, okay? Stacy wrote, it's important to know exactly what one wants. I think J.A. has covered it. I covered some base emotions, It's important to ask for what you want in the present tense, using we language, and also the feelings associated with what you want. Yes, I agree with that. So thank you. Paltry says daily sex. Hey, it's shooting for the stars. I mean, gosh, if you come halfway, I think you might be happy, but you might as well go for broke. Ginger reiterates, this feels impossible. Speak to couples happily in love. If you have them watch this and they say, it doesn't feel like this, I will be shocked. I will give you a free coaching session if you can introduce me to happy couples who listen to what I just shared and say, no, we don't have this. Now, I'm talking about happy couples. Miserable couples, I would agree, probably don't have that. All right. Rhonda says, it felt like love. Yeah. Rhonda also says, I want that. I want what she's having. Exactly. Embracing feels like something I'd like. Take that in. It's something I would like. I'd like to recite my dating vows shortly after meeting someone special. Of course, everyone wants that. Well, if they did, then why do they accept such bad relationships if that were really true? I think we have to do work on ourselves to get there. Stacy says the odds are definitely in my favor. There you go. The odds are in your favor. I invite you to embrace that in. Poultry's got a question. Question, Jonathan, that's a long list. How many of those things should we settle on? Well, first off, I don't think you should settle on chemistry. I don't think you should. I don't think you should settle on weak communication. I don't think you should settle on lifestyles that are incompatible. I don't think you should settle on values, shared values, and I don't think you should settle on trust and commitment. So those are the 5 core principles that I share. I don't think you should settle on any of that. I mean, again, these are base principles. Now, you know, if you're looking for 6'2" and the guy's 5'9", you might want to, you know, change what your list is. Maybe that's the problem, is you have a laundry list, but these were just the basic 5 C's to a successful relationship. I don't think you should settle on anything. Sassy's in the house. It's absolutely pertinent to know what one wants. That's part 1. Part 2 is the ability to actually execute everything to have a healthy relationship. Talking the talk and walking the talk is critical. Sassy, you nailed it. First, we start with knowing what we want, and then we have to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. I'm in full agreement. A lot of people, oh my God, I can't tell you how many women come to me for coaching. They act like they have their shit together and their life is in chaos. And they're like, I can't find a guy. I'm like, but I want what was in that mantra, Jonathan. I want that. I deserve that. I deserve that. But your life is in chaos. But you wouldn't accept a man's life in chaos. So have your shit together. Ginger says, I do have someone that would most likely agree to all of that, but I'm terrified and excited. You know what? Terrified and excited is a great place to be. I will tell you, of the relationships of the women I fell in love with, I was terrified and excited at the same time. There's something actually kind of magical about that. Probably also, you know what? I'm going to own this piece, though. I wasn't my authentic self. I pretzeled for these women because I was afraid of being rejected. So no, I don't think you should feel terrified. I think you should feel calm and excited. So I'm going to retract what I said. Catherine says, yes, and this was well stated. My significant other and I shared the same items that was started or stated. See, Catherine just reiterated that it is absolutely possible for those of you that thinks it's impossible. Hey, Linda just gave us a $50 super sticker. Thank you for the love. Oh my God, I really appreciate that. Let me just say this, Linda. Our goal was $50 tonight. Now our goal is $100 tonight. So thank you so much for the love. Dune Rider. How do I politely decline a man's sexual advances on the first date? I want to get to know them first before anything sexual. Okay, I think this is a great question. How do I get to know, how do I politely decline their advances? Well, tell them, well, one thing is you can say is before you're physically intimate, that you like to do an STD test. This would be one thing to initiate, and that kind of delays and stalls the conversation a little bit. But I think what you're really describing is someone who's coming on to forward sexually. You know, I remember a friend of mine would say, what about me? What am I doing that creates the invitation to come on to me so sexually? What am I doing that's causing you to come on to me so sexually? I would like to know what I'm doing, because I'll be candid with you. Before I'm physically intimate with someone, I prefer that we build trust together. I prefer that we establish some agreements between one another. I prefer that we have a civil conversation about our sexual past in relationship to possible diseases. So you can do it from a politically diplomatic way. But I'm projecting here a little bit, Dune, but I suspect there is an overt coming on sexually versus just, hey, men will throw up trial balloons, but I wouldn't, like men will test boundaries a little bit, but I wouldn't, like a man might say something like, oh, are there any cobwebs growing down there? That might be throwing up a little, but again, it might be just throwing out a casual sexual innuendo versus coming on strongly sexually. I would say if that's the case, then be diplomatic about it and say, hey, what am I doing to give you the impression that I'm interested in physical intimacy right now? I prefer that we build trust. And I'm looking for a man of character who is also patient to wanting to build trust, to build a relationship with me. I think that would be a better way to approach it. Let me know what you think about that. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I do believe, look, men who lead with sex, that have sex on the brain, oftentimes they're just in it for the short run. They have a short-term mating strategy versus a man who has a long-term mating strategy of wanting a significant relationship. He's patient on a sexual level, might throw in an innuendo or a little bit there to test boundaries. But that's how I would differentiate that, by being diplomatic about it. Okay? Hey, I want to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Jill says, where can I get a copy of this? I think there's a transcript button. You can press a transcript button, get a copy of that. Jill says, goes on to say, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Ginger wants to come back and say, we both feel afraid of rejection. Folks, nobody can reject you. Nobody can reject you. When you genuinely care about yourself, someone might not want to pursue a relationship with you, but that's not a rejection. That's just a misalignment. I think it's time to reword this thing called rejection and start just calling it misalignment with one another. And if it's not right for one, it's not right for both. Coming back to that sexual person, if somebody's coming on sexually and that isn't right for you, and he's like, I don't want to be with you. What's that saying? Rejection is God's protection. I believe that there is no such thing as rejection unless we reject the self-love, that we reject the love within ourselves. That is usually what happens when somebody chooses not to pursue a relationship with us. We oftentimes internalize it as if something is wrong with ourselves. And I'm here to say, nobody can reject you unless you reject yourself, Ginger. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd like to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. All right. Thanks, Ginger. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Janet is in the house. Why do many men start out with sexual innuendos from the jump? It's such a turn off. Because we have sex on the brain. I can't think of a first date I've ever had where I haven't had sex on the brain. I'm a guy. I'd like to think I'm a respectful, quality guy. But I mean, listen, part of the reason why we want romantic relationships is for sex. Otherwise, everything else is platonic, whether it's friendships or family, it's all platonic. I mean, sex is the whole point of romantic relationships. So why do we start off that way? Because we have sex on the brain. Just like my mother said, you know what? Whatever your dad said, I took it with a grain of salt. Janine says, if a man starts off with any sexual innuendos on the first and second date, he's not a gentleman. Next, if you made any hints and comments or like, it's your fault. Hey, again, the thing is, I guess it depends on the context and if there's a vibe going on. I would say a blatant innuendo that wasn't invited in, if there wasn't some flirtation. But if there's been a bit of flirtation, I wouldn't get too picky on this. At least I don't think you should. I think you should recognize that men operate this way. We just kind of do operate this way. We operate from a place of sex on the brain. Doesn't make, again, character really matters most. If you built the deep roots of trust with one another, that's where character matters most. In the early stage of dating, again, I'm not trying to suggest giving men a pass here either. Again, if it's overt and blatant and just it's sleazy, that I don't agree with. But if it's just a playful remark here or there, I wouldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Sometimes, lust and limerence can take over, but doesn't mean that the person's a bad guy. Anyways, just my thought. Janet says, I never say any word sexually, and I'm tired of this. I get it. Again, I am definitely talking about the difference between just a casual little conversation versus overt. I do agree. If it's overt, I would say I could see how you'd be very tired of it. If it's they only are thinking about you from a sexual perspective without wanting to know any other facet about your life, then I'm full agreement. That's next. Okay. Oh, Janine has an interesting comment. Are you dressing very sexy? Too sexy for your age? I do believe some women can be provocative. It doesn't give men permission to disrespect a woman. I don't believe that. But sometimes if you're looking sexy, it's hard not to think of you in a sexual way. That doesn't invite, that just because you've done that. But again, we men are, simple creatures. And if we're really attracted to you, again, the difference between sleazy and overt versus a casual innuendo. Okay. All right. Thanks. Hey, I want to hear your thoughts on what I just shared. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. Okay, let's keep going here. Jill wants to know, can you send the link for the dating vows? Here's the link. Get a free copy of my dating vows here. Just go to jonathanasley.com/dating vows. jonathanasley.com/dating vows. Okay. All right. Let's see what other comments we have here. Rhonda says, question regarding sex on the brain. Does it matter if you're attracted or not? You mean for us men? I think of the line that Billy Crystal said in the movie When Harry Met Sally. He says, she's asking, can men and women be friends? And he says, men want to have sex with women. She goes, what about the unattractive one? He goes, hey, we want to have sex with them too. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, again, sex is a very powerful need. Again, I'm not absolving anything, bad behavior in this regard. I'm simply just pointing out that we can be driven by our sexual desires. Again, there's a big difference between sleazy, overt versus just a casual innuendo. Okay. All right. Great question. Thanks so much, Rhonda. I appreciate that. Okay. Lulu says, yes, sex on men's head all the time. Wanting sex doesn't mean they want a relationship. Now, that's a very good point. Just because a man wants sex doesn't mean he wants a relationship. And just because a man wants sex doesn't mean he doesn't want a relationship. Okay. It just simply means he wants sex. Okay. And so, but again, just because a man, this is why you ladies, you've been told men are hunters, men love the chase. Well, yeah, we oftentimes hunt sex. That doesn't mean we're hunting. Do you guys think men will run around going, I'm hunting a relationship, I'm hunting a relationship? No, we hunt sex, but that doesn't mean that we're not capable of a relationship. This is where discernment comes in. This is where asking better questions in the early stage of dating can put the odds more in your favor, and also taking a little time to build trust before you're physically intimate with someone. So great point there. Thanks so much. Okay. All right. Lulu. A man told me about men over 50. If he's not attracted to a woman, they don't want to have sex with her either. Is that right? I mean, here's the thing. It depends on if alcohol is involved, okay? If alcohol is involved, a man might want to have sex with a woman he's not attracted to. Now, he most likely isn't going to pursue a relationship with someone he's not attracted to. Let me repeat that. He's probably not going to pursue a relationship with someone he's not attracted to. But again, if you're out, you've had a couple drinks, he might pursue physical intimacy. Just for a one-night stand. Again, there's always exceptions to the rules. These are just some generalizations. They're not absolutes. But I will say this, if alcohol is involved, oftentimes a man might push sex even if he's not attracted to a woman. Is this sinking in? I want to hear what you have to say. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all. All right? Okay. Sassy points out it takes time to build trust and a connection, so I don't want to hear anything sexual from the guy on the first few dates, since I want him to get to know me first, learn this from the past. Again, I get that. You may not want it. I'm just saying is if a guy threw out one sexual innuendo in a playful, flirty way, I wouldn't necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now, he should know how to read the room. In other words, he should be able to know that if that was said, it isn't going to affect you. Now, again, men make mistakes. This is the other piece you have to be able to understand. Men make mistakes. Even good men make mistakes. Let me repeat that. Even the good ones make mistakes. Doesn't necessarily mean, again, you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's just my suggestion. You can decide how to decipher that for yourself. Hey, I want to hear what you think of that. Post a comment below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Okay, let's keep going here. Linda points out something here. Men aren't the only ones who search for sex, ladies. Some women do. That's exactly true. I've known women who have propositioned me on a first date, ladies. That has happened to me. I've been propositioned on a first date. Women oftentimes have just as much strong sexual desires as men. So I wouldn't discount this understanding that men and women are sexual creatures, particularly from a romantic point of view. So again, you have to look at the big picture at a person. You have to look at the big picture. Are they kind? Are they considerate? Do they seem to have their act together? Do they communicate in a kind way? Again, sex is part of the process. Don't pigeonhole yourself just because a guy threw out one sexual flirty innuendo in the conversation. Now, again, if it's sleazy, if it's overt, if it's just you can tell all he's thinking about is sex, again, that's, it's a no-no. I agree. And I'm not absolving them for bad behavior. And just because you dress sexy, that doesn't necessarily give them permission. I'm just simply here to say is men are sexual creatures and women are sexual creatures as well. Women can have sex on the brain just like men. Okay. Hey, I want to hear what you thought of that. Post a comment below. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Hey, does anyone want to join the love seat at the last minute? We can have a conversation. I just posted a link right there. Be fun to have. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about sex. Sassy says, oh, we already posted that. All right, if you have a question, right? If you have a personal question of me, ask a write personal question or write the word question, then post the question there after, or you can purchase a super sticker, super chat, just like Linda was kind enough to do. She gave us a $50 super sticker. Linda, thank you for the love. We appreciate you. All right. Hey, listen. All right. I've had a couple questions that came in. So since we have a bashful group, let me share with a couple questions that came in already into my office. When I meet someone, sometimes the emotional connection isn't instant, but there's potential. Can deep intimacy grow over time, or does it have to be there right away? Can deep intimacy grow over time? Does it have to be right away? Absolutely. I have spoken to hundreds, if not thousands of women who have said to me, and I quote, I didn't have chemistry with them on the first, second, or third date, but something changed. I think there's a saying, men fall in love with their eyes and women fall in love between their ears. Actually, I've known women to see men who aren't necessarily their type fall madly in love with a person because of their character, their kindness, their consideration, their values. So yeah, to answer your question, when someone, so again, beginning of this conversation, you may not meet the person that's your type. Now, again, if you're not attracted to them enough to want to sleep with them, I get that. But if just because someone isn't your type, I would say give them 3 chances. You might be surprised. You might build that deeper roots of trust, that emotional connection, when you're not so hyper-focused on physical sex. Coming back to the sex conversation. Oh, Linda wants to share with everyone. It was my pleasure. It's going to a very good cause. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Rob Maria says, question, I have a man living with me. He's been hurt and we're friends now. There is no sex. I'm thinking of dating because he wants to just remain friends. So what's your question then? I mean, first off, if you're thinking of dating, if this person is a platonic relationship and you want to have a life partner who is somebody that you can also have physical intimacy, then I would begin dating. I wouldn't preclude myself, but I will tell you this, having a man living in your house that's might be problematic to men. Other men might take offense to that. I would take that into consideration. So is this just a roommate situation? Does he rent a room from you? Does he rent, does he have an do you have an ADU? Something like that. I'd be curious to hear more about what are the conditions that he lives with you. But just knowing that some men might find that problematic, I would just be aware of that. Hey, I'm going to give it 2 more seconds. If we don't have a question comes in, we're going to wrap up early today. Hey, did you find value in this conversation? I shared a personal story. I changed the names to protect the innocent. And about the story of my friend who's in love. I'm going to tell you something. You have a choice. You can operate from an abundance. It's raining great men. It's raining great women. Or you can operate from a scarcity as if there's nothing out there for us. I invite you to create your own mission statement, mantra, affirmation, prayer, incantation, like what I shared with you tonight. And if that helps bring in attract Universe Spirit. I invite for everyone who is watching today. I invite in a juicy, delicious relationship where there's amazing chemistry between the two of you, and the communication and banter, the communication between you is off the charts, and the humor and the banter can go on for hours and hours at a time. And your lifestyles are compatible with one another because you share the same values that are most important to you. And you build the deep roots of trust through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to something more serious like living together or getting married at some point, or even, it's okay to live together apart, to be in that kind of relationship. God, universe, spirit, I invite that in for everyone who's watching this today, and myself included. Hey, I hope you found value in this conversation. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me directly, and if you want to talk to me about this love mantra, hey, schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Follow me on social media. Get all the books I recommend. Get my dating vows listed below. First, I'll put that back up on the screen. Get my dating vows. JonathanAslay.com/dating vows. VOWS. Write that down. Go back and rewind this and watch it again. All right. Hey, everyone, thank you so much. Hey, and we're going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, give myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love, if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow. Give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Joe Daisy and Ginger and V.I. Simmons and Linda for that beautiful $50 super sticker. Thank you so much for the love. Maria says, excellent video. Thank you, J.A. Jerry, everyone sassy. Rob Marina. Rob Marina, we had a relationship, but not now. Okay, got it. All right, everyone. Wishing you all a super duper wonderful evening. Be well. Thanks. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye.